Hi, this is Milo from the Descendents, and you're on Records in My Life.
Thank you very much for checking out Records in My Life. We're with Karl, Milo, and Stefan from Descendents. Thanks for being on, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
How's things going? What's new?
We're about ready to play Vancouver at the Commodore.
For the second time
Yeah,
in 2 days.
Yeah, we played there last night.
How'd the show go last night?
It was great. It was
Really good,
went
actually.
off,
It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
So let's go back to the day. I just interrupted you right away. I blew the interview. Sorry, but let's go back to the day to the beginning in like Southern California. Give us some bands that inspired you guys to start playing.
I got into punk through actually the new wave scene. So I was into Devo way back when. So that's kind of my gateway band. And then after that I got into X, a band called X, and then it started to kind of get harder and harder. I got into like Black Flag, the Germs, and to me those three bands, X, Black Flag, and the Germs, were kind of like the epicenter of punk rock in LA for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any albums? One of those three albums in particular?
Well, I mean, Los Angeles was the first one that X put out, and that one just blew me away. I mean, I'd been listening to them on Rodney on the Rock, and Rodney was playing some of their Danger House versions, and then they came out with Los Angeles, which had different versions of the same songs, but different, and some of the Danger House versions I like better. But anyway, they were just a great band. For Black Flag, I got into them through Bill. I guess Bill. No, I guess I knew about him before Bill, but I had Jealous Again, and then I kind of discovered some of the other ones like Six Pack and that kind of stuff. So.
Great choices.
We were guys who lived in Utah, of all places, at this time, and we knew of the LA bands, the ones that could release records, the ones he had mentioned, and we also focused on stuff that, of course, no one came to Utah, so it was all the same to us, right? So obviously you're going to throw in the logical things like the Bad Brains, Minor Threat, and all the guys from other parts of the U.S., and also one of our first shows was with Personality Crisis from Winnipeg.
Wow.
And that was one of our first shows our band, when we were still teenagers, played with. So it was kind of a weird community back then. We all listened to each other. We all knew each other existed, And he forgot to bring in The Last.
Oh, yeah.
Another very influential group that not a lot of people know about from L.A. Yeah. And they predate most of them, and they're the record LA Explosion is the one that is, it's kind of, before there was anything like that, that was the thing that was that, if you know what I mean.
It's kind of like a power pop infused with punk thing. So for us, it was kind of a big influence on the Descendents, because we started to get more melodic, and the Last were kind of what we kind of revered in terms of a band that was, kind of mining that same kind of Beatles-esque territory. So they were great, and they lived like down the street from us, basically. So
what was the name of their album again?
LA Explosion.
LA Explosion.
Yeah, by The Last. Yeah,
Stephen,
they still play out too. So
you have yet to wade forth.
Well, I mean, so for me, it all starts with the Beatles for me, and really continues on. I have deep fanaticism with that, but for punk rock records, my first is the Sex Pistols, never mind the Bollocks, and like Karl said, we grew up in Utah, so we had a music store that all they could really do is just kind of buy whatever. Nobody knew what any of this stuff was. So we're just, we don't know where it comes from, nothing. And so we had a really interesting mix of new wave, punk rock, and just oddball music. Jim Scafish from Chicago is a guy we got into. I mean, there were all kinds of oddballs that we found. But Sex Pistols, and then once we started hearing, the stuff from Los Angeles, it was more, Black Flag, the Germs, X, the stuff that Milo mentioned. We have that sort of in
The
common
Adolescence,
with Bill
the
and
Adolescence
Milo.
Blue record
Adolescence
was a big,
first record.
Yeah, that
massive.
eponymous one is definitely one of the
And for
key
Karl
parts.
and I, Descendents.
Obviously,
Yeah, we were,
obviously, Descendants
for
were
us,
in there.
right.
Saccharine Trust affected me a great deal. Their
Minutemen.
first records, Surviving You Always, is that the first LP?
No, Pagan Icons.
Pagan Icons.
Pagan Icons.
That's
Pagan
the one.
Icons, yeah.
That affected me a great
Minutemen.
deal.
Yeah.
Minutemen as well affected us very greatly.
Yeah, so that those were initial things.
And with
All
the
weird
Minutemen, you
little
don't have to
singles.
specify album. It's pretty much every one of them.
Yeah, the Minutemen in general.
It's not a
Middle Class.
Oh yeah, good call.
Right? I mean,
Alley
those-
Cats.
Yeah.
Alley Cats.
So a lot of that stuff was, you buy 7-inches, you just try them. You don't know where they come from or what they are, and you just go, well, this is like $3. So you buy it, and you try it, and you see if you like it or not. And so, there are between us, the records that we're sort of starting to collect and for
Angry
us,
Samoans.
Angry Samoans, but they would also have been like, for me, the first B-52s record is a big one. I love that record. I love Gary Newman, like Tubeway Army and Replicas. I love those.
So you were a new waver too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he was
Back-
beyond new wave. You should have seen
Super
it.
new wave. Yeah.
He was high visual new wave too.
Oh, yeah.
so,
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
was-
No,
yeah.
it was all the same to me. It was, for me, there was really no.
It was that which was not Skinnered.
There was that which was not Skinner. That's exactly right. It was, and that could include, everything from the hardest music to very, very, to like Gary Newman.
Did you guys ever listen to Pere Ubu?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I love that.
Pere
The
Ubu.
dub housing is such a great record.
Yeah, exactly.
As well as there's all the other outliers of that era, like the Gang of Four and the
Yeah.
Gang
Fall.
of Four, Fall, the Fall were huge.
Real
Listened to
important.
them a
The
lot.
Stranglers are one I actually had a whole revisionist listen through in the past. Well, the Black and White album, and that's huge
Hugh
for Steph
Cornwell.
and me when we were kids. That was a very huge record for us. It was smutty.
Yeah.
Back
Yeah,
then
I mean-
smut was in short supply for a kid our age. So
Right.
we had to get it where we could find it.
I was
And
going to
the-
ask
you
you,
know,
was
the,
hard
uh,
to find? Was it hard to find those records?
Yes.
While you're
We-
talking about, like, I mean,
Yes.
But what's funny though is that in the pre-internet age, we the only way we could learn about anything was we had one record store in town that was actually in the basement of a hippie bookstore in town, and they had
sense.
the most. They had this just weird collection of records. They would just buy stuff randomly from the various distributors, put it in there, and see what happened. And that's so we discovered. We were just like, hey, if it's in this section, we're probably going to give it a listen. And
I
that's
heard a
what
lot of
happened.
my first bands on Rodney and the Rocks show, and what I would do is I would tape the whole show, and then I could just listen back to the
Totally.
entire tape.
We had a guy, we had a guy in Salt Lake, Brad Collins, who,
He's still on the air.
yeah,
actually.
and he, this guy, he was collecting all the records. He was following the gold mine and the magazines with that talked about rare records, and buying them and bringing them to Salt Lake. And he later started a very, very serious record store. But he was playing the same weird smattering of bizarre music and on the radio, and so that was our brief radio connection on a little local station.
and what album stays in your collection? What's your favorite record?
Well, I don't know. It's like you talked about the Beatles. It's
Sergeant
kinda
Pepper's.
Like, yeah, it's kind of
Revolver.
like
Yeah.
it's going back to like the Bible of music or whatever.
Yeah, that's like
Yeah.
core. That's like DNA structure
Yeah.
for me. Is those two records.
Yeah. What,
I got-
Revolver, Sergeant Pepper?
Revolver.
Yeah.
I got this collection of really early Otis Redding tracks that I don't think I ever will, part with. I think that's, for whatever it's worth, it really affects me strongly.
And let's do one more
Oh,
album.
wait! I have to say we have one more common thread. The three of us.
Okay.
One
Okay.
more weird common thread. Tom Lehrer.
Oh yeah.
Tom Lehrer. Somebody all three of us
Yeah.
happen to be into.
You know who that guy is?
Not the news. I'm
No, this guy he was a Harvard math professor who started writing sick joke songs to amuse his students and his faculty friends.
Only the music is basically inspired by Cole Porter. So it's like Cole Porter singing joke songs.
About sadomasochism, and this is in the 50s, about nuclear war, sadomasochism.
In the 50s?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Poisoning
amazing.
pigeons in the
Poisoning
park.
pigeons in the park. It's
incredible.
Yeah.
and he's an amazing guy, and we all had him as kids, and that probably is part of the Wiener Schnitzel factor.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the band.
Masochism
Absolutely.
Tango.
Yeah,
he-
the best is Oh, we'll all char together.
Oh yeah, we will. He got a song about nuclear
And let
war.
there be
It's
no
called "We Will
moaning of
All
the
Go
bar."
Together When We Go."
That's still
That's like
relevant.
Frank Zappa, like a little like
Yeah.
Frank Zappa.
Pre-Frank
was,
Zappa.
Extremely
Captain
Zappa.
Maybe.
And
Yeah.
very dry, scholarly introductions into his songs on
The
records,
wordplay is
too.
amazing.
Yeah.
So how did
is.
this inspire the students like to get into math? You're saying this?
Well, he just did this at cocktail parties to
Yeah.
amuse himself, and
incredible.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that song,
eventually
New
his
Math.
students got
New
together
Math,
money
New Math.
Yeah, it's good.
to get him his first recording. They made him record it. He didn't really want to, and then somewhere along the line it got released, and our parents all owned the records. Apparently.
Yeah,
And he's
So
still
that was like
kicking
the first-
around. He
yeah.
doesn't play really anymore. I mean, he'd probably be in his 80s by now. But he
That was one of the first records I ever owned, or did I know my parents owned it, but it's
Yeah.
one of the first records I ever spun because it was like sitting there, and it was like, this is hilarious, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the stuff went over my head. Talk about Hubert Humphrey, I don't know who that is.
Yeah. yeah.
Very topical
Yeah.
at the time, like from the late 50s, early 60s. Very topical stuff. But,
That's pretty
Yeah.
interesting. It's probably impossible to find.
Oh, you
though.
can find it if you just go online. Oh, Leheher. Is that how it's spelled?
Lehrer.
Yeah, Lehrer.
Yeah, Lehrer.
Lehrer.
Yeah.
He's a strange name.
Yeah.
That
but
was the year that
amazing
was.
music.
Is it? That was.
Yeah,
one of
that
those
was
records-
great.
That was the year that was.
yeah.
An evening wasted.
Dixie.
An evening wasted with Tom Lehrer. Yeah.
yeah.
It's-
I was going to ask you to give us an obscure record that we could, but that's
That's
There you
good.
go.
That
I mean,
fits the bill, doesn't
That's
it?
a
Sounds pretty
common
good. I
thread
think I
for
covered
all
it.
of us. Yeah,
That fits the bill completely.
Yeah.
But give
Oh,
us-
here's one that's worth looking for. Ronnie James Dio's doo-wop records. He actually
really?
made a couple doo-wop records back in the late 50s, early 60s, and I can't even remember the title of it. I'm having a brain fart, but
But
it's
he was
worth listening to.
Oh, he was formidable then. I mean, you listen to it and you go, oh, I see. This guy actually
voice.
is a really good singer. And you can tell it's him a little. If you're listening closely, you go, oh, shit, that's Dio. Gnarly. Like, he's
incredible.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
Let's do one last one. Is there a what have you just discovered? What's new in the collection, an album that you really?
Well, we had done a few shows with this this band, the Flatliners, and I just heard their newest one, and it kind of I'd never really discovered them, and I heard the new one. I was like, okay, this is the new thing for me. It's got a good bunch of layering. I mean, punk rock bands, you know, if they get too kind of orchestral, it kind of blows it. But they have enough kind of different layers of stuff going on, and the guy's a good songwriter. They're from.
Canadian band?
Yeah, they're from
Canadian.
Ontario.
Toronto. I think
yeah,
they're from Toronto.
Yeah. And I hadn't really heard them before, and I was like, how did I not hear these guys before this point? But I saw them play not so long ago up in Lancaster, PA, and you know, I had to stop by and say hi and give them the thumbs up. It was, you know, I just really liked them. So I'll get the new record. Yeah,